Hi guys, welcome back to Miscellaneous Pleasures. Before I say absolutely anything, I am using a slightly, well, I shouldn't say slightly, that's the wrong word. I am using a completely different application to make this recording or this video, if I may say so. So yeah, there may be a lot of technical glitches and audio issues, video issues, all sorts of nonsense that I would have to deal with. So please do bear with me. It is kind of disappointing that it has to be this video that I choose to do under these circumstances, but then I have to do this because and the video I am going to do, as you may have seen by the title of the video, is WandaVision's review and the future of MCU and all those type of things. I did watch WandaVision yesterday, and the reactions should be out on the channel by about, I don't actually remember. I think it should be out about 6 p.m. IST, Indian Standard Time on Sunday. 6, 7, something like that. I had already sort of scheduled it, but then I knew that the videos would get blocked and that they would be unblocked by Sunday. So I'm not really sure about the timings, but then they should be up and about at about 7 p.m. on Sunday, Indian Standard Time. And this video, I am planning to release this somewhere around 10 p.m., even though I'm making this on a Saturday. So yeah, it will only be released tomorrow, so there is that. So anyways, I actually did not have any time to talk about the episode, and you know questions that I still have, questions that got answered, interesting things to reflect back on the show, and all sorts of discussion points that arose from that sort of an episode that we had for a finale. Because make no mistake, that episode raised a lot of questions and also answered a few of them, and yeah, I will get into that. God, I hope my audio is proper, because if it is not, then this is gonna suck because I may have to make this again. So I really hope that doesn't happen to me. Yeah, I am looking at my mobile screen at the moment because this is where I've written down the points that I wanted to discuss. Uh, so yeah, I'll get into these. But before that, I would have to talk about the episode in itself and the show in itself and what I thought of it. And yeah, so the thing is, before on the day I started watching the show, which is what, 8 weeks ago? Yeah, 8 or 7 weeks ago. So on the day that was the first episode's reaction, and I do remember saying a lot of things. And one of the things that I did say was that I do not have any expectations of the show. I had watched some trailer or some piece of video like long back, and I do remember saying something like, you know what, it had something in black and white, there was a laughing track, there was something weird about all of this. And from the things that I had heard and read some random articles on the internet, I do not have any expectations of the show. For the simple reason, I did not really understand what the show was going to be about. And very soon into the first episode, not even very soon, but then towards the end of the first episode, we had that choking scene of the boss, of Vision. That was a weird scene in comparison to everything else that we saw on the episode. And what it meant was that, I had some sort of an expectation of the show, but then I did not really know what to expect. I knew that the show was going to go somewhere. The only problem was that I did not see where it was going. And now that I look back on the show, I remember saying something like, you know what, MCU is really good at this, and what this is the sort of creating content which may not be great. It need not be 9 out of 10s, but it's still 7 out of 10. Like, the worst the MCU has done is still about 7 out of 10. And maybe for comic book fans and just fans of comic books and who have adored some characters, they may get disappointed by some aspects of some of the movies. Like, people hate Thor: The Dark World. People are not the biggest of fans of Iron Man 2. The Hulk movie wasn't really appreciated. I mean, it is still considered to be among the weakest of the MCU movies. But regardless of these facts, these three and all the MCU movies are at the very least extremely watchable, and they may be boring for fans. They may have some boring elements to it, boring minutes into it, but there will always be things that will make the movie watchable. And I have to actually get used to saying movie and or TV show, because MCU has started with all of this from WandaVision, and there's obviously Captain and the not Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming up in 2 weeks. So the thing is that, as I said, I had very little expectations of the show, and after the second episode, where I had seen this one guy who vanished and got erased because of time reversal by Wanda. There was this one guy who, not one guy, but then there were a couple of scenes of color in the middle of black and white. So stuff like that was sort of, it was the beginning, wasn't it? And now that I look back on it, all those scenes were really important. Not really important, but then they all had some meaning behind them. And then those scenes, when you rewatch them, they hit you very differently than what you felt the first time when you watched it. So there is that. So yeah, I had very little expectations of the show, as I've mentioned like 10 times in this video already. But then the point is, this TV show was just perfect. Like, honestly, perfect. And what I mean by that is that it wasn't a 10 out of 10. I mean, I don't mean perfect in that sense. What I mean by perfect is that it had all the elements that you want from a TV show. Like, there is obviously the very important thing, which is to get used to the characters and their dynamics, and the fact that these characters must have some level of chemistry between them, regardless of the fact that whether it's a rom-com, it's a drama, it's a family drama, or it's a superhero show, or just pure sitcom, like whatever it may be, there has to be some level of chemistry. I think that's the word, between the cast members, and also there needs to be good character development. Not even development, but then there just has to be a good character and sort of character depth to all the people involved. And you have to have some sort of feeling towards them, because in a show like this, where there is ups and downs, lows and highs that the characters feel, if you're not going to get connected with them, then there's just no point in having those highs and lows, because as a viewer, you're not going to really get connected to it. You're not going to feel the highs with the characters. You're not going to feel the lows with the characters if you're not connected to them. So first of all, that has to be done. And then there is another thing of why I say it's perfect. It's because there's obviously Wanda and Vision, who we have seen previously in sort of 3 or 4 movies now. But more than that, I guess the first 2 episodes, like if you just watch the first 2 episodes and then decided not to watch the show further, then you would probably say that, that was a good decision from that perspective, because the first 2 episodes were slightly average. But then what you would be missing out on is just some absolutely brilliant story and like few characters that just blow you away. And then just the raw emotion that you feel towards the end of the show, which you never thought that you may feel at the beginning. So yeah, I've almost talked in a lot of metaphors and sort of unquantifiable things. I guess a review is almost always about unquantifiable things, but then nevertheless. So the thing is, yeah, I would probably rate the first 3 episodes about 7 out of 10. And the next 6 episodes about 9 out of 10. So yeah, my sort of rating, if I may, I'd probably give this about 8.2 ish out of 10, and that's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I absolutely love the show, and I'll probably rewatch it. I don't know about the rewatchability of the show. A lot of shows, I mean, this is, I guess, I mean, this TV show is slightly different from other TV shows, let's say a Dark or a Stranger Things, because they are their own sort of entities. This is, in many ways, this is just a small cog in a big wheel that is the MCU. So I don't know about the rewatchability of this, but I'm pretty sure there will be certainly some rewatchability, especially to certain episodes, I guess. So yeah, okay, coming to the final episode, right? I mean, a lot of us had a lot of expectations from this episode. I know a lot of people who are expecting cameos and all sorts of things. I particularly myself, I remember saying that what, I expect Doctor Strange to be in it, even though I sort of slightly uh, mended my expectation, not mended my expectations, mended my, what's the word? I forget the word. It's a very basic word. I completely forgot it. Anyways, the point I was trying to make is that like I wanted Doctor Strange in it, but then I changed what I wished for somewhere in the middle of the eighth episode. But yeah, I was kind of disappointed that Doctor Strange did not show up because I expected him to, for the one big reason being this show was going to lead directly into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And yeah, I had a feeling that, for that one reason, Doctor Strange might show up, but then he didn't. So there was that. But then a lot of people also got disappointed by the sort of, rumors that they themselves created, like, X-Men characters not showing up, or Fantastic Four characters not showing up, or just some other Avenger not showing up in the show. So they were obviously disappointed by that. But I guess, I mean, are you going to judge a show by its cameos? Like, I feel like cameos are something that elevate a show and not necessarily be the sort of deciding factor of whether an episode or a show in general is good or not. So yeah. Anyways, so the final episode in general, I liked it. I did not like it as much as I thought I would, and there are a couple of reasons for that, and I will come to them. Like, it was high, it was an emotional roller coaster, definitely. Not in the sense of how an Infinity War or Endgame or the Endgame was, but more so in the sort of like, you did not really know what was going to happen. Like, for instance, with Avengers Endgame, you always knew that Thanos was going to be defeated. You always knew that, I mean, I personally knew that one of the sort of original Avengers was going to die. When I say original Avengers, I mean towards the end of the movie. I don't mean the Black Widow death. I mean one out of Steve Rogers or Iron Man had to die. I knew that. So those were expected things, and even when Iron Man died, even though that was one of the saddest sort of moments in the whole MCU, I did not really feel sad because I expected it and it sort of felt appropriate, if anything. So there was that, and I have camera issues. Wow. So yeah, but then with this show, like I mean, up until the ninth episode, right? Like we as fans had no idea whether Wanda was a good person or a bad person, if she was going to be the villain of the show or going to be some sort of a hero of the show. Agatha Harkness, like even though she was portrayed to be this bad sort of person, like was she really a bad person? Was she just did she just have other motives? Like what was going on with her? Like these were questions that we had, which made the show what it was, which is very good. So yeah, I completely forgot my train of thought. Anyways, the original point I was trying to make was that I slightly felt underwhelmed by this episode but for a couple of reasons. One being the Vision versus White Vision fight scene. Like, I don't know what else to call that. I mean, it was alright. It was alright, but I expected it to last longer, or at least last, or have some sort of defining moments that I would want to remember. Like, the only thing I remember from that White Vision versus our vision, sorry, not our, that's not the word, Hex Vision. Yeah, Hex Vision. Hex Vision versus White Vision. Like, the only thing I remember from that fight scene is the very first moment the fight begins, which is when White Vision is crushing Wanda's skull, and then suddenly he gets, like, swatted away by Hex Vision. That's the first thing. And the other thing I remember is the scene where he goes, "I'm not your vision. I'm just a conditional vision." And then, like, White Vision is like, "You know what? Please elaborate on your thought." Like, those are not really moments that you would want to remember from a fight scene. And whatever happened after that moment, after he said elaborate your thought, I don't consider it to be a fight scene. It was just more of a conversation where White Vision gained knowledge about knowledge about things. So yeah, that was slightly disappointing for me, because I felt like, when you show something like a White Vision. Wait, I just remembered. In the eighth episode, end credit scene, there was White Vision reveal, and there was also this missile, right? And they never used that missile. I did not even write this point. It just struck to me right now. So where is that? Anyways, I mean, they did not use it, and maybe the excuse, or if this is not considered to be a plot hole, and the only excuse is that they never had the chance to use it, I guess. So, I don't know. The point I was trying to make is, like, when you have this type of an end credit scene in the eighth episode, and you're going to release the ninth episode like a week later, then you have to make sure that whatever the end credit scene was going to have some sort of a good amount of impact on the final episode. I felt like, if anything, White Vision was just shown in the eighth episode, and whatever is going to happen with him is going to happen in some other future movie or TV show in MCU. So yeah, I felt slightly underwhelmed by that. Not disappointed, but then underwhelmed. Uh, Even Wanda versus Agatha sort of was that. Yeah, I guess, I mean, you couldn't have done anything more with their fight scene, I guess. So I'm not going to go down that route. Um, so what else? I don't know. Like, I don't know. I guess the only problem I have with the final episode in itself, not necessarily is the final episode's fault, because this is one thing that I have often felt, and this is one of those things, right? Like, there are two types of TV shows currently in the world. There are one which, your Stranger Things, Lucifer, and all those type of things on Netflix, which release, and all their episodes come out on the same day. So whatever hype you had about the show is going to be before the show got, or the season got released, and then you're going to get all your answers within, if it's going to be a 10 episode season, then you're going to get your answers within 10 hours at the maximum. 10 hours of binge watch and you're done with the show. So between episodes, there is no going to be any real hype that you get, because you're going to watch the 8th episode, 9th episode, and then the 10th episode with a gap of like 10 minutes in between each of them. So that's not really anything. But there are other types of shows like WandaVision, like there are a lot of shows, your Arrowverse stuff. They all release one episode per week, and if it's going to be a show like WandaVision, which is only going to be 10 episodes, there are not going to be any sort of season 2s or season 3s to this. So this is a mini series sort of thing. So the hype that gets generated over time, there has to be some sort of a equally sort of great actual episode. Like very often, what happens is like you have a certain amount of hype, but to match that hype is a very difficult thing, and a lot of shows don't do that. I felt like the episode 9 in particular, the finale, did not necessarily do that, but then it's sort of its own evil, like you can't really do anything about it. But then if you look at the show in general from the outside perspective, then you would have to agree that the finale was a very good finale. Just that us fans got excited and were sort of, we were like, wow, what a show, what an ending are we going to get? Like these sort of thoughts that we had is probably the reason that we are, or at least I am personally, feeling slightly underwhelmed by it. But that's not that big of a deal. So let's get into the good stuff, right? I loved. Okay, I'm still messing around with my camera because I'm for some reason feeling uncomfortable by this sort of view. So getting into the good stuff, I loved. I loved the fact that it was Wanda specific. Like I mentioned this in the 8th episode, right? Like one of the things I did not want, which I did not really realize before that, was that if you're going to have a Doctor Strange or some other X-Men or somebody show up, then I do not want them to help Wanda defeat Agatha or whatever big bad evil it was going to be. I wanted Wanda to do that herself, and that happened, and that happened magnificently well. So kudos to the show for that. Like for instance, the runes trick that she used, the scene where she used her original trick that we saw her do in Age of Ultron, that is, showing people's fears to them, sort of thing. Uh, that and like just the scene where she gets her costume and she's sucking all the power from Agatha and all those things. The scene with Vision just before Vision gets sort of disintegrated, like all these things, they were absolutely brilliant. So that was one of the good things about the episode. So yeah, I also loved the scene with the twins where they use their powers, and there was Monica who used her powers. Again, something that we got shown in like the 7th episode or something. The fact that she had powers, but then we never really saw her use it all that much. It felt like something that was done or shown in the show, sort of like a trailer for what's to come in the future of MCU, not really for this show in general. So yeah, I was slightly disappointed by that too, by the fact that I did not really get to see Monica use her powers to whatever extent she can. Yeah, I mean, one thing that the show also did really well is that we got to see people like Jimmy Woo and Darcy. I mean, for one, I never thought that Darcy was ever going to come back to the MCU. Like, I had literally forgotten her existence. Like, actually, I hadn't forgotten her existence. I thought that she was going to pop up in Thor, the 4th movie. I forgot its title. Because, yeah, Love and Thunder. Because, Natalie Portman is going to be in it. So, there's obviously, we're going to see some part of her life and Jane Foster life and whatever she did and stuff like that. So I thought maybe Darcy would show up there, but then to have her show up here, and then whatever Darcy did, she was funny, she was resourceful, and then whatever scene she was present in, they were only made better by her. There was no scene where you felt, what, she's annoying, why is she even here, stuff like that. So, brilliant. And then again, Jimmy Woo. I mean, that guy is absolutely brilliant, isn't he? Like honestly, I haven't seen The Office, but then for some reason I got one of those Office clips recommended to me where he was pretending to be John Krasinski's character. Like I do not really get the context, but then that like 2 or 3 minute clip that I watched on YouTube was just like Wow, this guy is just brilliant, isn't he? And obviously, uh, we're probably going to see him again in Ant-Man 3. We're probably going to see him in some other stuff that has FBI or something like that in it. Maybe even Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you never know. Uh, so yeah, I am looking forward to seeing him more. And I've spent about 25 minutes without even talking one of my points. Anyways, so yeah, the first thing is Wanda is more powerful than Doctor Strange. Okay, I mean, this got sort of randomly, she was just stating some facts about the Scarlet Witch, Agatha, and then there was this line where she mentioned that the Scarlet Witch is more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. I mean, when you say the Sorcerer Supreme, it could be a lot of people, right? Like, it could be Doctor Strange, it could be the one before Doctor Strange, that is the ancient one. And there are going to be a lot of Sorcerer Supremes throughout time. So, I guess not all Sorcerer Supremes have the same power sort of level. Like, because they're all different people, right? They're all different people, they all have different sort of capabilities and abilities. So, but then it makes the most obvious sense that they meant Doctor Strange because he is the Sorcerer Supreme now. So there is that. Uh, that is an interesting piece of information, isn't it? Because up until, let's say, Endgame, I do not even see Wanda as this person who had powers in the same realm as Doctor Strange. Like, yeah, she was manipulating stuff, but then it was almost always scientifically explained as telekinesis, and then she also had the ability to sort of mind and stuff like that. I forget what the word for that is, but then not only have they named her Scarlet Witch, and then they also have named her as this person who is more powerful than Sorcerer Supreme. I wonder, like, I mean, she's obviously more powerful than Sorcerer Supreme at her peak, but then what would happen in a fight between them? Like, it's not like, you know, a fight is not always about power and like how powerful two people are. It almost always has like 6 or 7 factors affecting it, and one of those things, which is highly influential, obviously, is the power. Like, if you're going to make Iron Man fight with uh, Black Widow, like Iron Man versus Black Widow, like Iron Man is this powerful and Black Widow is this powerful in comparison. But then, if by some way Black Widow is able to sort of circumvent the security protocols and make the Iron Man suit not work or like dismantle or something like that, then suddenly it becomes a fight between Tony Stark and Black Widow where suddenly things change, the balance changes. So what I mean by that is, in a fight between them, I'm not really sure who wins. Maybe we'll find that out in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, because I do have a small theory which I will come to later when I am reading out these points. Yeah, I'll discuss the end credit scene and the mid credit scene later. So yeah, of the many questions that I still have about the show, so who was this aerospace engineer friend of Monica that she mentioned in, I think it was the 4th episode, maybe the 5th episode? Who was it? Like, I read some theories back at that point of time when this episode got released. Somebody was mentioning something from Fantastic Four. I'm not sure who they were mentioning. And I thought maybe, yeah, this was one of those theories, like the cameo theory, right? But then, was that aerospace engineer the person that we saw in like 7th or 6th episode with the big truck? The big truck that Monica used to get into the Hex, she couldn't, and the vehicle got thrown back, and then she entered and like sort of got her powers. Like, there was a person there, right, who said, yeah, your mother is not the only person we are loyal to. Like, was she the aerospace engineer? Like, I don't know. They never really explicitly mentioned what she was, I think she was a person who was working for Sword, I think, a different sort of branch or something. But then, yeah, so there was that. Uh, so where is that guy that got erased in time in the second episode? Like, did we ever see him again? Like, did he just got erased from existence? Like, I always thought that maybe he will come across for a scene or two in like the finale or the eighth episode or something, and like we'll get some answer about that. But then we never got that, so that was surprising. Uh, Another question that I had was, so Wanda imprisoned Agatha, right, to Westview. But then the Westview is not under Wanda's reality anymore. Like Westview is just like just another town now. So whatever she did to Agatha, like is Agatha back to herself, or is Agatha still under that sort of a reality warp that Wanda has her on? So is Agatha still in Westview? Like I sort of got confused about it because we saw her say that, you know what, you're going to remain in Westview. And at the time, I thought that, you know what, maybe this reality is going to stay the way it is. And then, you know, Agatha is going to live here as Agnes, and, you know, that's what Wanda told, right? You're going to play the same role that you played in the Hex. But then we saw the next scene where, you know, we got the confirmation that she was going to remove the Hex, and then, like, you know, the twins and Vision, they're all going to get disintegrated. And I completely forgot that Agatha is still there. So what happened to Agatha? Is she still living there as Agnes, or is she living there as Agatha without powers? Like, what's going on there? So if anybody has any explanation about it, it would be really helpful. Yeah, the next thing that I do have to talk about is, so yeah, I mean, I actually wanted to talk about if Agatha was going to come back. I feel like she is, because, you know, she seems to be this character that has a lot of knowledge. If anything, I mean, you know, if she's powerful or not, like whatever, she seems to have knowledge about the Scarlet Witch and just, you know, witches and these type of things. So I feel like at some point of time we have to see her. We have to see her. It will be interesting to see if we see her in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Are we going to see her as a person who is going to help out with something, or are we going to see her as a person who sort of broke through her shackles and has become a villain again? Like, you know, there are a lot of things that she could become. So yeah, it is going to be interesting to see if we ever see her again. So yeah, I do have something to talk about Agents of Shield. I have something to talk about, obviously, the end credit scene and the mid credit scene, and something related to that. So the final thing I'll talk before getting into all of these things is sort of like this question of, was Wanda essentially the villain of the show? And the next question is just consequential. I mean, it's just sort of related to this. Is Agatha the hero of the show? Because yeah, what Agatha wanted to do was essentially get Wanda's powers. So there is no, you know, there is no two ways about it. She wanted Wanda's powers, and that's why she did the things that she did. But then, if not for Agatha's intervention, would there ever have been a scenario where Westview gets sort of out of this reality thing that Wanda put them through? I don't see it happening. Like, it would have required somebody of Agatha's level to intervene, somebody like a Doctor Strange or somebody else. But then, if not for any of them, I don't see how Westview becomes this sort of, you know, how Westview gets rescued, if I may say so. So there is that. And about the Wanda being the villain thing, I mean, whether she had control over it or not, whether she meant to do it or not, she did put those people, about 3,000 of them, through a lot of suffering. Is there any sort of excuse? I don't think so. I would like to think that she is not the villain, but then she is, isn't she? So yeah, that sucks. So she has to take responsibility about that. And we are not in Age of Ultron anymore. I mean, she is not a kid. I don't think she was ever a kid from the point we have been seeing her in the MCU, because we found out that she was born in like 87 or 88 or something, right? Uh, which means she would have been in her mid 20s in Age of Ultron. Compared to a lot of others, she's obviously young, but then she's not young in the terms of like she's not a teenager or anything, right? She never was when we saw her for the first time. So I have to say that at some point of time there has to be some amount of responsibility that is put into her, and I feel like right now I felt bad for Wanda, and there was even a scene where Monica was like, these people will never know what you sacrificed. I'm like, yeah, you did sacrifice, but then you created this hell for these people. So do you really deserve any sort of appreciation for the sacrifice you made? Like, not really, in my opinion. So yeah. So I guess, yeah, Wanda is the villain. Agatha being the hero, I wouldn't say that, but then you know, she is in contention for that. If you're a Wanda supporter, then Agatha was not the best of person. But then if you are somebody who got mind controlled in Westview, then you are a person who would probably appreciate what Agatha did for you. So there you go. So let's get into this mid-credit scene, right? Like, that was shocking. Not shocking, I mean, now, but then shocking then, because I did not expect it. We saw Skrull, we saw Monica being referred to as having an old friend who lives in space, and it was a he, which makes me think it was probably Nick Fury. Uh, Most likely person, to be fair. So, two things that we do know about it is that there are Skrulls among us. When I say among us, I mean in the MCU, in Earth. And that Nick Fury has something to do with Monica. I wonder what that is. Like, I mean, she is going to be in Captain Marvel too, right? Nick Fury is also probably going to be in Captain Marvel too. There are already a lot of questions about Nick Fury, like that got thrown into the air by the end credit scene that we saw in Spider-Man Far From Home. We're like, I mean, have we ever seen the real Nick Fury? I guess we have. I mean, if we haven't, then that would just be an injustice to the character itself. But then, there's also reports of how it was actually Nick Fury in Tony Stark's funeral. But then there must have been points of time where it wasn't Nick Fury, but where it was the Skrulls. Oh my god, I'm so sleepy. So, there are already a lot of questions about it, and then now we are, seeing Nick Fury is going to be joined by Monica Rambeau. So I wonder what's going to happen with that. That felt like a definite setup for Captain Marvel. And then there was the end credit scene, which I do not really understand, in all honesty, because one thing I thought was happening, which we still hold true, is that we saw two Wanda, right? Two Wandas. One was just standing there in normal clothes, and there was one in Scarlet Witch, a robe and stuff, and then she was reading this book, The Darkhold. So, was it some sort of an astral projection like we saw in Doctor Strange, or was it something like that? Like she was trying to gain knowledge from the book. What exactly was that? I don't know. Um, so breaking that end credit scene into like few parts. The first part is I'm not really sure what was happening there. Maybe it was some sort of an astral projection. The second part is, of course, the fact that she was reading the book. It's something called as the Dark Hold, and I sort of realized from YouTube comment section that this Darkhold book has appeared in Agents of Shield. I wonder if it's the same Darkhold book or if it's something, because Agents of Shield is not part of the MCU. So are they going to use that continuity factor, or are they just going to use the same book here but then have sort of a different story with it? So yeah, yeah, she was reading that book, right? And that book is supposed to have these lot of knowledge. And I have actually, something to read out. This is one of the comments I read in one of the YouTube videos. So for those who don't know, the Dark Hold was written by some guy, the God of Chaos, and it's a book of spells. It provides the reader the instructions to make their desires come true, and it's written in the language that the reader would understand. So if I was a reader, then I would be able to understand why it was written. And let's say some other Russian guy or some other guy who doesn't understand English came and read that, it would probably be shown in their language. And the other thing is, there are a lot of things about what the book can do, harness energy, and there's also, the book also has the ability to corrupt the reader's mind, and it sort of creates an obsession with the book for the reader, which makes sense. And there are a lot of things mentioned here, and then there's obviously the question of, is Wanda going to be a villain, because that did seem slightly sinister. So maybe if she was reading the Dark Hold and the things that I just read out, if they are true, then maybe, just maybe, she obviously wants to gain knowledge, right? And the Dark Hold is probably a good source for that. But then I wonder what the book will also do to her. So that's going to be an interesting thing to keep your eye on. And the final part of the breakdown of that end credit scene is, it's like you hear the voices of the twins going, "Mom, save us," or something like that. Where did that come from? Like, so the hex doesn't exist now. Twins do not exist now. Vision got disintegrated. So how on earth, who on earth was that? Like, how did we even hear the sounds of the twins? I don't understand. It's a question to ponder. It's something to ponder over. I wonder if that end credit scene was some sort of a setup for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, because I feel like this Darkhold book, it must have some sort of dark energy or something like that. And I also remember something Agatha mentioned in episode 8, something about dark energy, and it was what Doctor Strange dealt with in the first movie, in his first movie, wasn't it? So yeah, something to ponder over again. So yeah, that's one of the things that I did want to talk about. This Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is reportedly going to be sort of horror-y and scary and stuff like that. I wonder what they're going to do with it, because I also did some reading up on Doctor Strange and Wanda in the comics and what her sort of character is like. Because this is way back, right? This is about 3 or 4 years ago, I guess, when Doctor Strange the movie was about to come, where I was having this sort of, I've never read comics. All I've depended on is Google, and I just Google stuff. And I was Googling some of the stuff, and I remember reading something about Wanda and Doctor Strange and like their partnership, and I do not really remember what I read, so I Googled some stuff again. And a lot of things I read seem to be pointing towards the fact that Wanda is going to be not a bad guy, and then maybe Doctor Strange will become some sort of a mentor or somebody that she could talk to about these things, because she doesn't want to be a bad person, and Doctor Strange is, one of the good guys in this sort of a world, magic world. being the Sorcerer Supreme and whatnot. So yeah, I am interested to see their conversation because we haven't yet seen them converse, have we? So there's that. Yeah, and the final thing that sort of came into my mind was the you know I did not watch it. The Disney thing that came out like in November with when they announced all the shows, but then they are doing something with Secret Invasion, aren't they? So Secret Invasion, apparently when Captain Marvel came out, I sort of I was just seeing these trailer reactions and stuff like that where people were going on about Skrulls and how they are bad people, and I went with that expectation into the movie while watching it, and I thought that the Skrulls would be the bad guys, and they suddenly turned out to be the good guys, the victims of everything. So that was a twist I did not see coming. But then Secret Invasion apparently is going to be about how Skrulls have invaded Earth and they have like disguised themselves as humans, and they have been here for like ages and ages. And this scene that we saw in the mid-credit scene, that was just one example of it, right? And we already have somebody imitating Nick Fury and Maria Hill. So it will be interesting to see how they build up to that Secret Invasion. Like, are they going to use all these TV shows and moments here and there to just show that what, Skrulls are here, Skrulls are there, Skrulls are everywhere, and then build up to the Secret Invasion where you have this sort of realization that the Skrulls are literally everywhere and they have infiltrated every single organization and something like that. So maybe we have something to look forward to in this regard. Yeah, so that's all I have to talk about WandaVision. Finally, we do have Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming up on 19th of March. So I don't know how many episodes that is. I guess I read somewhere that it was 6 episodes. I may be wrong. So yeah, that's going to be one of a very interesting show, and I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I am happy about this 2 week break that I have because WandaVision was something else. I guess, of course, another question that I never really talked about was what is White Vision going to do now? Like, is he? I mean, we saw from the scene that he got his memories, but then what all memories does he have? Does he have all the memories of the original Vision? Does he know about Wanda and the relationship that they had, about Civil War, about the snap? I mean, he wasn't present for the snap, but then he was, the moment of his death. Like, what all stuff does he remember? And what is he going to be used for? Like, when I say used for, I don't mean from the perspective of any organization like SWORD. I mean from the perspective of what's his character going to be like, what's he going to be useful for in these movies, where is he even going to pop up? Like, he won't be there in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I don't expect him to be there in Loki. I don't expect him to be there in Black Widow. Like, what's the next thing that's going to come up where he could have some sort of a role? Maybe Captain Marvel too. Maybe Black Panther. I mean, Black Panther won't make sense, to be fair, but then something like that wouldn't. I mean, yeah. So maybe Spider-Man, because the only tech savvy guy that I can think of apart from Iron Man. There's obviously Shuri, but then that's in Wakanda, so I don't know what other dynamics are going to be there. And the other guy is Spidey. So maybe he will have something to do in Spider-Man No Way Home. That's the title, right? So yeah, that's all for this video, guys. Please do share your thoughts and please do, like, share and subscribe and all those type of things. And yeah, stay tuned because lots of interesting things are coming up. I currently have Superman and Flash, Dark, Stranger Things, all on the sort of roster. There's obviously going to be Falcon and the Winter Soldier added to the list, and obviously the football stuff that I am doing. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was good in terms of quality of content as well as audio and video. And if you have any thoughts about it, please do share your thoughts. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye.